Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. So once again I'm back with another episode in the Walk Up the Tower. It's my little series on the Tower of God, and this time the crazy part is we're actually in episode 131 to episode 140. Now this is also another drawn out section of the story. There's a little bit of an advance and a lot of suspense, and then we'll get into the 141 to 150 where this section actually ends. In actuality, this here could have been a very short section. A lot of it is actually back and forth, which gives us character development. It's not really pushing the plot of the story forward. It's one of those things where things are just being added to the stakes for things to come later. We then see that Rachel's team is about to take on Meriodic, and Daniel decides to go at it and he gets all fancy. We see he attacks Meriodic, and as Meriodic is about to attack, and we see that they're wondering if Daniel can actually do this here, and they see that he is really strong, at which point he keeps playing, and we know that he likes to use lies. We see that Cassino could kill the Guardian if he really wanted. We then see that the fight continues for a little bit, and then all of a sudden the attack from the Guardian hits, and after that there, when the Guardian is about to attack, we see that that Daniel simply switches him off because he got the remote for the train. Now originally we did say that there were 5 members from the team with Borrow that actually survived. I actually knew this here already. The train boarder, the chauffeur to the train, is actually the last member of the team who survived. Rowena was the main member of the team who died inside the train, basically one of the 5 surviving regulars. Besides her, the other one was their friend who ended up quitting being a regular and just helping with the train afterwards. We then see that they start boarding the train at the end of 131. So let's move on to episode 132. As I said, it's a lot of drawn out fighting for no reason. We then see that Ran gets pushed around by this individual with his reverse flow control. We see that this guy from the team insults the Kun family, and that causes Ran to go at it even more crazy. We then see that Yura explains that she's going to help Fug steal the train, and that this is actually a massive trap to hold them all in here because the elevator isn't going to come. We then see that Yura steals one other regular and she teleports out of there through her bag. And at this point we see that Ran and the member from aka Williams' team shows up because they're getting ready to fight their match. And we see that Ran calls this guy Toad. And we see that they explain that they're all in a trap and that Yura has actually locked them in a trap. aka Williams jumps down, the rest of Ran's team jumps down, and we see that Fug is mentioned to aka Williams and she gets angry. So both Borrow and AKA are on the same side for a little bit. They open the bag, check what's inside, and they realize that Uraha is out of here. She has a special skill with the bag that allows her to teleport. We see that the rest of Ran's team, that's Novik and Dan, basically tell him to stop. We see that Beta and Xiaxia are in the control center and they're busy checking what's going on. And we see that they say that Rachel and Casino are already on the entrance to the train. And we see that everybody is now in agreement that they're all going to work together to get to where they need to be. We then see that Wari Yun is worried that she got caught in a trap. And we see that there's this massive platform, the Helix stairs, to get to the Hell Train, and that there's a guide to get you to the platform as well. And we see that that's where episode 132 ends. We'll move on to episode 133. This here will be a very fast one because I'm not getting into the back and forth. There's too much of it. So we see Wari Yun decides to lead the regulars. She divides them into 3 sets. Some of them have to remain so people don't realize that things are all messed up. Then one set has to go through the control room, and one individual has to run and trip the switch to open the end of the workshop's tunnel sections that are made here. Another thing to note is the Hell Train was made by the workshop, so all of this is made by the workshop. Number 2, it was all made for Jahad and the 10, actually at the time the 12 great warriors, or the 13 warriors it was made for. And yeah, that is what the Hell Train was made for, and everything on it was actually made to help them understand their powers. So yeah, that's the reality behind it. We then see that the tournament continues as regular. We see Rak is left behind with Borrow and the nurse, and we see that several of the other members are gone. We see that the team running through is Wari Yun, Ran, Bam, Borrow, AKA, and Toad. I'm just gonna call him Toad for now. And we see that she says that she might make 1 or 2 mistakes getting through a workshop maze, and we see that they start moving through and everything is being relayed through Xiaxia. So they have Dan run through to trip the switch to open everything. Once it does, they get through, and it was so effortless that it was crazy. We then see that Beta runs through the back parts as he's being given the objective to go and see who's blocking the elevator and to get the elevator working again. We see that he takes them all down, and at that point we see that the elevator is no longer workable because it's been totally trashed. And at this point we see the Hell Train for the first time. It's massive. It's not a train in the sense of a train, and that is where episode 133 ends. We'll move on to episode 134. The Hell Train is more like this massive device. Every compartment is like its a whole stadium to itself, and there's multiple compartments making up this entire train. So yeah, it's a massive city that moves around for a year in the tower, and it takes you up several levels all at once. Then we see that they're all looking at it, and it's way bigger than what they were thinking. We see that they're waiting for the first gate to open so they can go for the gateway to Hell. We then see the friend from that first team. His name is Poropo. Now, although this is all happening, there is something which is more important, and it's this individual who's important right now because all of this is happening under his guidance. Pedro is the ranker in charge of the Hell Train, and he has decided to break some of the rules so that he can do what he wants. Now, no action will come to him because it's just interfering with regulars in a very minor way, and it's not something really too massive. We see that they're waiting for Yuraha, and without her they won't be able to take off, and we see that she's almost here, she's on her way. At which point we see that there was a discussion between Yuraha and the swordsman. Basically she explained something to him, and that's how it goes. We see that the elevator is totally wrecked, so they can't stop the tournament and get everybody through. We then see that everybody is running towards the entrance of the Hell Train, and we see that Yuraha and her team show up, and they see after a few seconds that the elevator gets blasted in by the team from aka Williams, and we see that Bam is actually most probably responsible for that, helping them get through. And we see that Bam could get through even faster than normal because the elevator was gone. And then we see that Yura activates the Meriodic Guardian, and they all have to fight it. At this point we see that episode 134 ends with Rachel as the final character we see. So we get into 135, where everybody is up at the top waiting for Yuraha, and then they hear that fighting starts, and basically we see Daniel is going down and several others are going down to try and grab Yura and get her up to the train. So it's important that that Yuraha and the rest of Team Fug get onto the train ahead of Bam and the others, because if Bam and the others get on, they can simply stop them from reviving White, and White may not stand a good enough chance against Bam if he releases his Thorn power. So all of this has been taken into consideration, and as it stands, White's kid form basically is around the same power as the regular Ranker, and White, once he is joined up with multiple pieces, is around a Ranker to possibly an advanced Ranker level of power, and once completed with all of his parts put together, he is a high Ranker level individual. We then see that Bam exclaims that the Guardian is powerful, and we see that the rest of the team are now wondering what they're going to do. Now, A.K. Williams is a special position called a blocker. Blocker isn't one of the traditional positions we learn about in Season 1. It's a special position. It's used in conjunction with the Spear Bearer because they allow the Spear Bearer more attack capabilities. We then see that Waryun finds a way to get them through. Waryun and Bam go through the Guardian, and we see that Boro is sent flying through as well on the same path as them. So we see Bam make it through, and they realize they need the controller from Yuraha to shut down the Guardian. And we see that she's wondering how in the world did they get through, this isn't possible. And then we see that the swordsman decides he's going to take on Bam, and we see that Boro is also there, and that, as I said, he was thrown through. And we see Bam fires a shot at Yuraha, which knocks her down, and Waryun comes running, and then we see Daniel decides to take on Bam. And that is where episode 135 ends, and we'll go on to episode 136. Now, something you have to understand about Daniel. Daniel uses a curse power. So curse powers aren't like regular Shinsu flow controls and things like that there. So he can't just copy his power. But Bam also comes from a line of individuals who has the possibility to use curses, and is also extremely resistant to them. So that is why his fight goes in the way that it goes against Daniel. We then see Daniel decides to take on Baam. We then see that he explains that he has a remote and that they'll allow Huariyun to chase Yuraha while he fights Daniel, and that's all they've got to do. We then see Ran and the rest of them are struggling against Meriodic, and they've been trying to get the same type of opening that Baam had when they went through, and things are really difficult for them at this point. And we then see A.K. Williams use the blocker power to actually give Ran his chance to help them get past the Guardian. And at that point we see Yuraha is running up, and we see that it's Baam vs Daniel. And we see that Huariyun is chasing her and is going to catch her, because basically they round about the same amount of speed, but Huariyun is still a guide, so she can see parts that others generally don't see. We then get this crazy fight between Daniel and Baam, which goes something crazy, and after a few quick hits we see that Daniel replies that Baam is quite weak, and he uses his Shinsu powers against him, and then all of a sudden Baam turns around and uses some crazy fighting techniques, and we see that he's using a total different combination of attacks, and he mixes all the martial arts that he learned together into one. That ends episode 136. Now, as I said, this is a lot of back and forth for a little bit of a payoff from these few chapters. The fight between Daniel and Baam goes crazy, and we see that he knocks Daniel down, at which point we see that Baam is in a crazy mode, and Baam is really powerful. Now, understand that Baam hasn't yet released the Thorn. Once Baam releases the Thorn, things get crazy. We then get back to A.K. Williams, who is fired up and using her defender power. And we see that they start doing their combination assault to try and damage the Guardian so that they can get through. And everybody does whatever they can, and we then go back to Boro and the Swordsman. And the big problem is anybody with a weapon is absolutely useless against Boro. You're better off fighting him hand to hand or fighting him with a wave controller, because other than that he's going to beat you. It's the only time that he is superb, and he's a high ticketer as well. What's up? Sorry about the interruption. So I might be skipping where I am. There's just a little bit of a hassle for me to sort out. So yeah, anyway. Mr. Swordsman has a swordsman called Krishna. Sorry, not a swordsman. Mr. Swordsman has a sword called Krishna. It's one of the ignition weapons that seal up a beast's soul so that it can't reincarnate from a certain flaw in the tower. And that is the sword that he is using, and we see that he mentions it as well, and they go through it. Now, Boro is absolutely unstoppable when it comes to taking on weapons. That is the only point where he shines. He's like one of the best. And we see that Swordsman goes ahead and he ignites his weapon to fight Boro. And the reality behind it is he's not just doing this because he likes Yuraha. He's actually favoring her plan and her strategy because of something altogether different. He's actually favoring her strategy because she showed him a piece of a mirror from the hidden floor, which allows her to break the rules of the hidden floor and talk about things that happen there without it being totally erased from memory. and we see that Boro basically tells the swordsman that he picked on the wrong person and that he can read just about any sword. But at that point, we see that Mr. Swordsman goes down quickly, and there was his big mistake, and that's the end of 137. We'll then get into episode 138. So Boro stabs him and takes him down quick and easy. We see that Uraha noticed his talent, and that's why she fed him the full story about what's going on. And we see that there's the whole story about the hidden floor turning back time. Now, obviously, it didn't end up that way, but there's a whole lot to it. Now, you should understand something. When we switch over to Daniel and Bam, Daniel passes a comment that he met someone who was very similar to him, but he was much closer to perfection. Now, you should understand, when it came to White's persona is made up of 5 individuals. So he had 5 different schools of thought to help him when it came to it. He has 5 people's energy, 5 people's life force to fuel his power. His martial arts skill matching Bam means that a ranker's level of martial arts are nothing to Jovial Grace. Bam could actually beat him, and that's the way that it is. We then see that it switches back to Meteoric and Ran actually tried to get through, but Meteoric changed the way he was, and he was actually in a real form and not an illusion form, so he performed a different type of attack. We then see Huariyun use her guide power to actually get ahead of Uraha. And then we see that Angel shows up to actually beat down Huariyun. And we see that things are going crazy. And that is where episode 138 ends. Now, this whole section, when it gets to its completion, is so ridiculous. So we get the start of 139, where they're looking at the boarding for the Hell train is starting, and then we get the swordsman down and Boro talking to him. And we see that Boro explains that you lose everything on the train. That's how the train works, and that's why it's called the Hell train. And we see that Daniel says he wants to go back to Hell. And everything continues on, and the whole fight between everybody is now heating up. We see Angel attack Huariyun, and she actually has the advantage, allows Uraha to go up. Angel is very dangerous because she possesses those sweet fish of hers, which can just about eat anything. I think they call metal fish and not sweet fish. So yeah, they change in shape and they change in number, and they just eat everything. And then we find out what Emily's been doing. So they've used Emily to actually mess around with the parts of people. So when she constructs a path, she can totally block off the sight of a guide, and that's what's been throwing off Huariyun this whole time. We then see Daniel decides to start running away from Bam, and he starts using some weird types of Shinsu to get away from Bam. And then we see Bam ignites the thorn, and that's basically the end of 139. So we'll get 140 with not ignites the thorn, he takes out the thorn. Then we see Bam takes out the thorn, and now we see that things are gonna get real crazy. Now, the one thing is that they really nerfed Balm's power. If you realized it, when he took on Mule Love, that basically set the standard that Balm was over the top crazy powerful. Then all of a sudden over here, he isn't equal to D rank regulars. Remember his ranker level in physical strength? He may not be able to overwhelm and defeat rankers, but he definitely can fight rankers on equal terms, and with them not holding back as well. That's how hard it is. And we see that Balm had a warning that he can only use the Thorn for about 10 minutes. And that will max him out with the Thorn and he'll be totally useless. He'll go berserk if he continues. And we see Boros sees Daniel, and then the fight continues on the other side and everything is going more crazy. Things aren't as expected. Then we see Beta arrives at the Guardian situation and things are going a little bit more crazy. We see that Boro and AKA believe that Daniel is dead, and with him being here, things are crazy. We then see that Daniel starts running off, and all of a sudden, everybody is chasing after him. We see that Angel has finished off the guide almost, and basically is told she's told to retreat and take the guide with her. They need to take her for the rest of their plan. We then see Yura meeting Rachel for the first time, and they decide they're going to go together. We then see that everybody is trying to fight Meriodic, and Beta jumps in and he just delivers this crazy fight. And at that point, we see Team Sweet and Sour show up, ending off this chapter. Now, you should understand that Sweet and Sour are no longer as weak as they used to be. They've gotten crazy powerful, and they're only going to get more powerful as this arc goes on. Under Kun's guidance, they are super difficult to fight against. And then we see what Balm's enhanced strength with the Thorn is, and we get the hint that the Thorn is speeding up his development, which is kind of something crazy to actually think about for this whole chapter. I'm actually going to explain it in a few pieces right now. So, because we already know Balm is at tie with the ranker level, so he's at the minimum level of a ranker, which is crazy powerful compared to everybody else. The next thing that we should understand is great family members and stuff will still be a difficult situation for Balm, especially if they rank a level. However, if they regular level, they may give him slight trouble, and some crazy abilities might be able to put up a tough time for him for a few seconds, but Balm should be able to overcome most of it. Any regular Shinsu power should be absorbed by Balm instantly when he takes a hit, and that should enhance him even more. So there is something else that you have to think about. And beyond that, their Balm should be super OP. He should be like a cheat code everywhere he goes. When he was onto the Hell Train, there wasn't a question that they basically explained that he's super OP. He can take on just about every Guardian solo where even high-ranking individuals couldn't. He takes on crazy tests. He develops his power even further. All of this is just the pinch of salt on top of everything, just to show how crazy he is. And his development isn't that insane that it's outside of reason for who he is. So yeah, there is something else to mention about everything that happens in the tower. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it over there. I know this wasn't a full video and it didn't really have that heavy impact, but the next set will have a heavy impact, and that will be episode 141 to episode 150. That will be the next one. Catch you all in that one and have a great day.